High-profile figures are joining Gaza peace talks in Egypt today and hoping to finalize a deal that will permanently end the war. We have a view here of where the talks are taking place. This is in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff is leading the U.S. delegation there, joined by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who will also be at that table. They're working to finalize and implement Trump's 20-point deal. There are signs of progress. Hamas says it has exchanged a list with Israel containing the names of hostages to be released and prisoners to be swapped as part of the agreement. Yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of the October 7th attack by Hamas on Israel, and pressure is mounting to free captives and end the bloodshed. Let's bring in Crystal Gomansing, who is part of our CBC News team in the region. She's live in Jerusalem this hour. Those indirect talks, Crystal, between Israel and Hamas, the U.S., Qatar, Egypt, now the mediators, and as I was mentioning, some of the key names for the U.S. delegation now joining the mix. What impact might they have? How close are they, do we think, to a ceasefire deal?
Yeah, Heather, this is day 3, and we can see that things are starting to ramp up with a number of high-profile individuals now taking part in these discussions in Egypt. You went through a couple of them. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, of course, U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law. He was the American Special Envoy for Middle East in Trump's last administration. But there are some other figures as well. For example, Israel's Strategic Affairs Minister, Ron Dermer, local media reporting that he will be there as well. That is a key figure that often is used as a gauge here on how close or serious negotiations are, because he is a very close ally of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Here in Israel, there is a lot of pressure on the government to make a deal, to have those 48 hostages returned immediately, 20 of whom are believed to still be alive. So it does appear that there is some progress, but we know that they are dealing with sort of the initial points of this 20-point plan that was put forward by U.S. President Donald Trump, including who would possibly be exchanged from the Palestinian side, Palestinian prisoners in exchange for those 48 hostages. How and when would the fighting end? Would Hamas have any future role? How would they disarm? And would Israeli forces have to leave right away? Where would those lines be? So a lot of negotiations, a lot of talks underway. The fact that we have two other individuals, two other big names joining the discussions, really critical today as well. You have the Prime Minister of Qatar, and you also have the head of Turkey's intelligence agency. The fact that they are going could be seen as two high-profile individuals joining the table that could potentially put pressure on Hamas, because those two nations could look at Hamas as a delegation and say, well, if you don't move forward with some of these points, we can bar your officials from entering our countries, we can put them into exile. So there is a little bit more at play here today. Of course, we did hear yesterday from U.S. President Donald Trump, who still seems optimistic that a deal can be done.
We're in very serious negotiations to, I guess you could say, depending on the way you count, 3,000 years, you could say 500 years, you could say, but that it's been raging for a long time. And I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East. It's something even beyond the Gaza situation. We want a release of the hostages immediately.
There are high expectations on these talks, and we have heard from leaders around the world urging all sides to seize this opportunity, Heather.
Focus then on Egypt again today, but we have these new images this morning, Crystal, of more air attacks on Gaza. So on the ground, even as peace talks continue, the war very much continues too in Gaza.
Absolutely. And we have seen this before, the idea of negotiations under fire. We've seen this in other talks that have been held, and we're seeing it again. Heavy bombardments again today, just like we saw yesterday. And so much of this activity taking place around Gaza City. That is an area that Israel Defense Forces are focusing on. People continue to look for areas of safety. NGOs in the region are encouraging these talks to move forward quickly so that there can be a cessation of these attacks in Gaza. But we have heard from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He did release a statement yesterday on the anniversary that gives us a bit of indication that these strikes will continue. And I want to share part of that with you right now. In the statement, Netanyahu said, "We are in a time of fateful decisions. We will continue to act to achieve all of our aims of the war, return all of the hostages, destroy the Hamas regime, and ensure that Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel." So if you read that statement clearly, these attacks, these bombardments will continue as the talks go on. Heather?
Thank you, Crystal. Crystal Gomansing, live for us out of Jerusalem this morning.